very good evening and a very warm welcome to this RoundUp special edition on Art Television. Today we're going to talk about a very important topic. And I'd like to start off saying, a country without a vision is like a ship without a rudder. So speaking of this vision, our country's vision is to eradicate poverty. And poverty eradication has been key to all countries' development. And our topic today is poverty eradication and transition from developing to developed. So speaking of this developing actually, we have been developing for a while now. Our ancestors used to say that Sri Lanka is a developing country, and then came our parents. They used to say Sri Lanka is a developing country, and we are the third generation, and we still keep saying that we are a developing country. So we're going to talk about this topic in depth today, and we have a subject expert with us on Art Television joining us today. And to speak of this person, he happens to be the former Secretary to the Higher Education Ministry and the former Director General of Samurdhi Authority, and also the Director General of the National Institute of Education. And he is none other than Dr. Sunil Jayanta Navaratna. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Hesha.
Indeed.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Certainly. So to start off this conversation, sir, I'd like to start off with an index, that is the Hdi ranking. So this Hdi ranking has placed us in a very higher position, that is in comparison to other South Asian countries. So if we analyze the current status of poverty in Sri Lanka, what will be your analysis?
Actually, Sri Lanka is not a developing country now, it's a middle income nation. Right now our per capita income is $4,000. So you better say not a developing country, it's a middle income nation, right? That's a little bit better than.
More accurate it is, yes.
So I have some statistics. So Human Development Index, highest rankings. So you can see the number one country is Norway, then Australia, like that. So you can see Human Development Index is as a result of life expectancy at birth, expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling, and gross national income. So there are four factors. What is the number one is life expectancy at birth. So our life expectancy is very high now. In Asia, it's about one of the best countries in Sri Lanka. It's around 72, 73, 74 like men and women, right, average. Then the expected years of schooling also better compared to other countries. Then mean years of schooling and the gross national income, GNI, or the per capita. So per capita is lower, right? For example, Norway per capita is 67,000, Australia 47,000, Switzerland 56,000. Since our per capita income is lower, our Human Development Index is lower. Now you were talking about the comparison. So you can see in 2018, Brazil, China, Russia, etc. So if you want to compare all these countries, Brazil, India is 129 in 2018, Brazil 79, China 85, and Sri Lanka 71. But compared to Pakistan and South Africa, we are much better. So when you compare the South Asian countries, you can see Sri Lanka 76, right, 2017, Maldives 101, India 113, Bhutan 134, Bangladesh 136, and Nepal 149, and Pakistan 150. So compared to those countries, we are much better. So in that means our country is not a bad country. Out of 194 countries, we are at 76. Then our next country, Maldives, 101. So somewhat lower, 25 ranks, steps. So we have to be happy one way, but on the other way, we have to be sad because we are not a developed nation yet.
We aren't,
So
yes.
to become a developed nation, we have to have 12,000 per capita income, US dollars, right? So now we are at the $4,000 rate.
All right, so that is certainly good news with regard to HDI. So we're moving to another index, that is, when speaking of economic growth and distribution of resources, there's a certain gap. When it comes to provinces, now we can see a certain hike in the Western province. If you say 42% of this growth is mainly in the Western province.
Yeah.
So do you say that there's a certain disparity when it comes to regional development? Do you agree with this statement?
Yes. You can see 41%, 1.7 Western province in 2015, 41.25. Right, these are little bit older statistics, but comparing to the other provinces, Western province is leading. So earlier it was 51%. Now it has come down to 41% after the war. Now you can see Northwestern about 11%, Southern 10%, Central 10% likewise, and Northern 3.3 or 3.5. So now we can see huge disparity between the Western province and the other provinces. So why? Because development has not gone to the other provinces. So it's high time for us to take the development to the other provinces.
This is not diluted enough across the country.
Exactly,
that is what you mean.
Exactly. So why? Because private sector is not investing in other areas. There's no jobs, no productions. So regional disparity is huge. So in that sense, we have to think, how are we going to take the development to the regions, especially the private sector. With the support of the government, we should take the industries and various other services like BPO, business process outsourcing, KPOs, knowledge process outsourcing, or not only governments but also back office operations. All these things can be taken to the villages, then villages income goes up. On the other way, it's good for the countries, for the companies, because regions salaries are lower. For example, when America pays $5,000 a month for an employee, we pay only $1,000 or $2,000 a month. So they are outsourcing their work to Colombo and India and Sri Lanka. But why can't we outsource our Colombo work to the regions, the villages? Right? Easily we can do. Say Bank of Ceylon, People's Bank, or Haley's, Keels, Cargill's, all their back office work can be done in the villages.
We are only staying within the limits of the Colombo city, that is.
That is the reason. Because as the responsible private sector, we should think differently, like I call it the blue ocean theory or blue ocean strategy. So instead of having everything in Western province, we should take development to the other provinces. Even if you have call centers, Tamil one, we can take it to the northern province and the eastern province, even the central Moredi area. Then you can have Sinhala call centers to the other Sinhala speaking areas, and even data entry operation, back office operation. Right now our internet connectivity is very good, so I am humbly requesting the private sector to think on that line, because you can cut down your cost, like America sending their work to Colombo or India, and we can send Colombo jobs to the villages. That should be the good strategy to support the villages or the provinces, and also you can cut down your cost through outsourcing.
That is certainly a good message and something to think about for our private sectors that is prevailing in Sri Lanka. So speaking of this poverty alleviation within Sri Lanka, so now we know that different sorts of programs have been implemented by different governments. That we have a change of government and a new program is introduced, and millions of rupees are being invested in these programs. Do you think they have come far as to say that they have succeeded and they have made some progress in alleviating poverty within Sri Lanka?
Definitely. This is the poverty levels in Sri Lanka. You can see lowest poverty in the western province, again Gampaha, Colombo and Kalutar, and then even Vaunia is somewhat closer to the western province. There are 4 districts, even Gol and this area. So its lowest poverty index is 1.4 4 to 3.4. It's around Western Province and Vaunia. Then you can see green, that is Putlam, Hambantota and Ampara. Then yellow, that is Anuradhapura, and red is the highest, that is Kilinochchi and Monragal and Ampara, right. So now you can see the poverty, there are poverty disparities. Poverty levels are very low in the Western Province and Vaunia due to some reasons, and the other areas poverty levels are there. Then how is the poverty level? Now you can see poverty head count ratio, like sectors. You can have urban, rural and estate sectors. So you can see the poverty levels are coming down, right. In 2095 our poverty level was very high, about in the state sector 38.4 and the rural sector 30 and the urban sector 14. Now it has come down to the urban sector 2016 1.9 and the rural sector 4.3 and estate sector 8.8. Now you can see the poverty levels are coming down, reducing. It's one good thing. So no country can eradicate 100% poverty. Anyway, Sri Lanka is much better position as far as poverty is concerned. For example, now you can see again household income deciles, right. So lowest decile 10% is the lowest contribution. The highest richest 10% is having the highest income. Now you can see that disparity again, right. The 10% of the highest people are making a big money. So income disparity is high. So these are the issues we should discuss and try to minimize the gap. So otherwise the gap between the poor and the rich is we are widening, and then we have to face various other social issues also. So it's private sector as well as the private sector, public sector's responsibility to focus on these issues and take development to the villages.
Certainly, and on that note, I think we can head in for a short break and we'll be continuing this conversation on BIS Roundup. Welcome back after the break. You're watching BIS Roundup on our television, and we are in conversation with Dr. Sunil Jayantha Navaratna, the Director General of the National Institute of Education. So to continue the conversation, sir, my question would be, we're going to speak about Samurdhi. So Samurdhi has made its generous contribution towards the poor households in Sri Lanka and towards alleviating poverty in Sri Lanka. But do you think this is sufficient? Do you think it has made a great impact on alleviating poverty in Sri Lanka?
As you can see that the poverty levels has come down. I think to that reduction of poverty, Samurdhi movement has done a tremendous contribution. For example, now Samurdhi started in 1994 and the number of Samurdhi families were very high. But the problem is we did a mistake, or we are not having a proper program to graduate them from the poverty. There are a lot of people who have graduated from the poverty level, but we are still keeping them because there are a lot of advantages for the Samurdhi people. So I think I have proposed the government several times to have 3 different categories, right. For example, out of Samurdhi, there are chronic poor people who cannot take out of the poverty. Maybe they are very old, maybe son or daughter is handicapped. So we cannot take them out. So we call the people who are not possible to empower. So then empowerable poor and the empowered poor, the people who have graduated. I think there are more than 500,000 families in Sri Lanka now getting Samurdhi, but already graduated from the poverty lines. But still they are there, and also due to the political reasons, there are other people also, not suitable people are getting some of the benefits. But anyway, this is not a subsidy program alone. So a lot of people think that Samurdhi is a subsidy program. But remember that we have 1074 Samurdhi banks. Every 10 to 15 Grama Sevaka Vasama, we have a Samurdhi bank headed by a graduate manager, right? And some of the people are doing savings. They have 5-member groups, and they collect themselves their money and deposit in the Samurdhi bank. And also when they get the subsidy, there is a compulsory savings component, monthly 300 rupees or 400 rupees. So it goes to their bank. And in case of emergency, or in case of their want to do some start business, they can get loan without any collateral. So if the 5-member group is there, other 4 sign for as a guarantors or sureties. So there is no other guarantees needed. So people can get loans. Now there are people who are taking even 1 million loan from the Samurdhi bank, and Samurdhi bank will invest or providing loans to do business. So that's a big thing. So Samurdhi is not only subsidy program, but also giving loans to do business and improve their businesses. And also there are some of the development officer at the Grama Sevaka Vasama. So he should visit them and help them to do business and other things. Not only that, but also Samurdhi has housing lottery. Out of the subsidy, 20 rupees is deducted for the lottery, and every month 334 houses are distributed among the subsidy people. It's a lottery, right? Not only that, but also in case of emergency, say if someone getting died, if someone hospitalized, if they have a wedding, if a child is born, or if a child is going to the school, Samurdhi is helping. And there is a Samurdhi insurance scheme also, right? Nobody knows this.
Exactly. So what you're saying is Samurdhi has been doing its part. It has been playing this a major role. It's just that it has not come into surface. People are not knowledgeable about this aspect.
Some people, but maybe English speaking people, or maybe the media doesn't give enough publicity.
Yes.
Therefore the awareness is poor. So but and also you must shocked to hear that Samurdhi has 170 billion rupees savings, Samurdhi bank.
Now that is news to us.
It's a one of the big banks. And also recently the government wanted to give 5,000 rupees each to the people who cannot do anything. So Samurdhi bank helped them to get that money in 2 months, right? I think nearly 50 billion was given to those people due to the corona or COVID-19 through the Samurdhi bank, right? So that's the Samurdhi power, and a lot of people underestimate. And also we have officers every Grama Sevaka Vasama. So through that machinery we can do a lot. That's how government distributed that money through our officers. But unfortunately Samurdhi is not recognized well. That is the deal.
Certainly, what we understand is that through your statement, Samurdhi has been doing this admirable course of work, but it has not come into surface. So it's something that we should know and should spread awareness of. So moving on, so I'm going to quote a slogan that you have been reiterating. This is Transform Education, Transform Sri Lanka, Education for National Development. So we are going to move on to the education aspect of Sri Lanka. And as an educationist of the Sri Lankan, our country, what is your perspective?
Actually, I think under the leadership of Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the Excellency President, now we are moving towards a good direction. His one of the highest priority gives to the education, right? His Saubhagya Dakma document itself says we have to develop the human capital. So, but what is the situation? Now you know, so you are changing your mobile phone, right? Analog phone to the
Digital,
smartphone.
yes, smart.
You change your car, right? We started with Morris Minor old cars. Now we are talking about the full option cars, right? We are changing watches, and we are changing what you call cameras. Even we are changing computers. We are changing our houses.
We move with time and
That's right.
change.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately, education system has not changed. Therefore, I call that 19th century knowledge by the 20th century teachers, using the 20th century teaching and learning methods, we are teaching to the 21st century students. There's a huge gap.
We are a bit stagnant on that
Stagnant,
subject.
yes.
Yes.
So now it's high time to change the education system of Sri Lanka. There's a huge complaint. But those days, we had only one book in the library. So teacher take that book and teach to the student using that knowledge. So that is called knowledge transfer. That was the old system. But thanks to internet and various technological issues, development and all, now we don't have to have that kind of old traditional ways, right? For example, today 21st century skills are very important. So you are a knowledge worker. To become a successful knowledge worker, knowledge alone is not enough, right? So knowledge plus skills are
Soft
very
skills,
important.
yes.
Soft skills, not only soft skills but also values and attitudes. All these things are matter. So therefore, today we are talking about full option graduates, like full option cars, right? So if I show you my computer, again ranking of personality attributes, the private sector look for soft skills. You can see initiativeness, flexibility, adaptability, responsibility, decision making, problem solving, creativity. All these soft skills are very important. So we have to develop, inculcate those soft skills among the youngsters. Now, education for national development, that is my tagline. In more detail, education for sustainable national development and sustainable peace, right? It should be sustainable national development and sustainable peace. So now, transform education, transform Sri Lanka is my tagline. Why? Because if you want to transform Sri Lanka, you have to transform education. Our lagging behind education doesn't help. So why I say that? So vision of Sri Lanka. I think today I told you our per capita income is $4,000, but what is the developed nations per capita income is 12,000, World Bank definition. So if you want to be a developed nation, we have to be a developed and peaceful nation with 12,000 per capita or more by 2035. That's my target. So that's a must. So unfortunately, to this level, 2020, our per capita income is $4,000. Now you can see the screen. Sri Lanka in 1950, our per capita income was $89. In Japan, 90, and Malaysia, there was no Singapore at that time. In 1965, Singapore was created. Our per capita income was $30. So Malaysia was 3 times behind us. See, 2019, Sri Lanka's per capita income is $4,000, while Japan is going up to $48,000 from $90. In 1950, Japan was $1 ahead than us, now 48,000. Then Singapore, there was no Singapore at that time, now it has gone to 64,000, and Malaysia 12,000. Are you happy now? So something has gone wrong in Sri Lanka. That's why I call a country without a vision is like a ship without a rudder. Right? So country was going here and there without a proper vision. But I think 2005 to 15, during that 10 years, we had a vision, but later on again we lost the vision. Now I think we have a visionary leader, therefore we can have a hope that we will go towards that. So you can see foreign exchange. In 1950, US dollar rate was 476, today 185. So no exports, only imports. So always rupees devaluating. So are we going to continue like this? We have to ask this question. So my humble request is, learn from Japan. So Japan, when they take decisions, they take decisions based on kuni or tree KKKB. Kuni is the first word, is called country. They think about the country. The second one is kaisha, the organization. First the country, then the organization. Then kasuku. Kasuku means family. Lastly, boku. Boku means self. How about in Sri Lanka? Boku first. No?
It's the other way around, totally.
That's right. Through our education,
Yes.
we should change this paradigm, the country first paradigm. Organization next. Boku last, or self last.
So we are a bit rusty on the education side, but we surely should make this change.
Yes.
So speaking of the 4,000 to 12,000 US dollar transition, that is about the middle income.
Yeah.
Do you think this is actually possible within Sri Lanka?
Yeah.
And
You can see today, 2020, our per capita income is 4,000. Now, after COVID, it's like a war, right? So after the war, our development went up. I will show you the figures. Now you can see, if we maintain a 10% growth per annum, 10%, right? 2021 per capita income is 4,400, then 4,840. Likewise, by 2032, we can achieve 12,553. So most of the people might think, oh, can we achieve this 10%? Yes. See this just after the war. In 2009, we won the war. Then 2010, 8%, 2011, 8.4, 2012, 9.1. We have achieved 9.1 growth just after the war. So assume this corona or the COVID-19 was the war. Right now, Excellency President has decided to have more local products, reduce the imports, and send that money to the villages. Agriculture, all these things are promoted. So I think through this strategy, definitely we can achieve 10% growth. If we can achieve that, definitely we can be a developed nation by 2035 at least. So that is my and for that we have to have service sector as well as the industrial sector and agriculture sector. Again, our service economy is very big. 61.2% is coming from service sector. Then in the service sector, out of the GDP, the biggest contributor is wholesale and retail, then personal services and transport, right? So our biggest contributor, 12% is coming from retail sector. All this Sillara Kadakarya on the roads are the biggest contributor to the national economy. But in our education system, most of the Sillara Kadakarya or workers are O-level failures, right? But we never teach how to run a Sillara shop, how to treat the customers, how to manage a service sector. No. So our education also outdated. So there should be a link between education and national development. So if you want to develop the nation, we should change our education to support these industries.
System.
So retail industry, service industry, right? Then the transport industry. All these industries are service industries. But unfortunately, our education doesn't. Only we teach mathematics, Buddhism or Christianity and science and all. Nothing to support the industry.
So we should stray away from this frame and think beyond that, step out of it. So to wind up this conversation, if you take this as a system, sir, as you say, private sector is the engine of this, and the public sector is the gearbox, and the political sector is the vision or the driver behind the wheel, and the people are the wheel of the system. So people has a generous amount of contribution that they have to do. So what kind of words of wisdom would you like to impart on our viewers today?
Actually, I have developed this 4-piece model in 2019 because we knew that private sector is the engine. Yes. Now you can see the screen, and though the private sector is engine, our engine is very small. We have only 1 million enterprises in Sri Lanka. So it's like a motorcycle engine. But we have a public sector, I call it is the gearbox. So gearbox should support the engine. We have a huge bulldozer type gearbox, but it doesn't match with the engine. So ultimately the public sector should support to move the country towards the future with the support into the engine, the policy wise, rules wise, decision making wise, all these things. Unfortunately, our public sector, the gearbox and the engine doesn't have couple, so we have to have alignment. Then the people sector is the wheels. So unfortunately, our wheels are on the lock, right, on the rock, right, and not aligned, and always on the roads they are striking, very negative. So if you want to develop our nation towards 12,000 per capita income, towards vision, private sector should work towards that as a responsible private sector, and public sector should support that through policy and various other incentives as a gearbox. Then as the wheels, people sector should align towards that. Finally, political sector is the visionary and driver. So I think visionary driver is in the driving seat, but lacking part is the private sector, public sector, people sector should work together towards as engine, wheels and the gearbox. So that is the good strategy. For that we have to think differently. Our paradigm has to be shifted. Okay, we have to be a developed nation by 2035. So as the responsible private sector, we should invest. As a responsible public sector, we should support everything. So public sector for national development, private sector for national development, people sector for national development, and political sector for national development. That is, by 2035, 12,000 per capita income, and we should become a real developed nation. Otherwise, if we go like this, it might get more 100 years to become a developed nation.
Certainly, as per your vision, that is truly a beautiful vision that you have. And I think on that note, we will have to wind up this conversation today. As you say, it is our attitudes, it is our vision and our perspective that we have to change. And thank you for that beautiful message, sir. We were in conversation with Dr. Sunil Jayantha Navaratna, the Director General of the National Institute of Education. Thank you for being with us today, sir.
Thank you, Hesha, for inviting me.
Indeed. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for being on board. And on that note, we're going to wind up this special edition on Best Roundup Art Television. Until we meet again, good night and take care.